Okay, so you guys already know about me, so let's get through that. So today we're going to talk about goals, motivation, and kind of the theories behind that I use for wellness coaching and working with individuals. The next three things are three different guys that are big researchers out there that are doing these things in their world. And so the first one is Tiny Habits and Baby Steps. This is a guy from Stanford University, BJ Fogg. And if you're interested in more of this information, please let me know and I can email you some links and different things like that. But once again, his name's BJ Fogg. He does a ton on tiny habits and baby steps, and we'll get into more what that is. Habit Loop is from a guy named Charles Duhigg. He wrote a book called The Power of Habit. He has another one coming out here, so if you have heard that or read that, it's a really good book. But he does have another one coming out here soon. And then the last one is called Deliberate Practice, and that is from a guy named James Clear. Funny thing is, I actually taught him at a school when I was out in Ohio. He's only about 30 years old, but has done a ton of research, puts out a couple articles a week about it, about kind of habits and leadership. And so we're going to kind of use those three researchers as a guide for what we're going to talk about today. All those coming in, make sure you grab a notepad and a pen too, if you can. So wellness, and one of the big issues that I run into when I'm working with people on wellness coaching or working on their wellness is focusing on the end instead of the journey. It's so easy for us to say, I want to lose X amount of weight, or I want to look like this, or I want to be able to do this. But if we can focus on the journey, which is harder to do, it's the same thing that happens in strategic planning or goal setting, even in a place like this. But if we can focus on the journey and how you're getting there, doing the right things time and time again, the end will kind of take care of itself. My wife's reading a book with her team right now, and in there they use the phrase, nurture the roots to grow the fruit. And so don't worry about having all this fruit at the end. Worry about taking care of the roots, and if you do that, the rest will take care of itself. Okay? So kind of a couple different analogies there, but think about that when you're working with wellness and you're trying to improve different things in your life. Focus on the process or the journey, not the end. Okay? All right, obviously here we talk about this a lot, the holistic version of wellness, not just the physical activity and nutrition. That's what usually gets the headlines and those types of things. We've used a 4 spoke wellness wheel, if you will. This one's an 8 version. But the nutrition and physical activity just reside in this one here. We still have all this other stuff that are part of our wellness that can affect our wellness in a positive or negative way. Okay, one that a lot of people don't think of so much is the financial side. How much stress can finances bring, right? And so if we can learn how to budget and do those things accordingly, that takes off stress, which then allows us to work on some other areas of wellness. Everyone with me here so far? Okay. All right, so as we get into the little activity here, so this is an interactive presentation for you guys. So on the first page of what you have, I'm going to give you 30 seconds here, maybe a minute, to write down one wellness goal. One health goal, one wellness goal. Whatever you want to do, just write down one goal, something that you want to do, work on, achieve, etc. Just one thing there. And we'll come back to that here. I made a list. I did this presentation in January, so I did a list of like the top 10 resolutions that people make. I went through various sources, and these are the ones that we find. How many people have wanted to work on something like along these lines here before? Most of us. Once again, they're top 10 for a reason. But these are a lot of the similar things that I see working with wellness coaching. Lose weight, quit smoking, learn. That one was ranked a lot higher than I thought for most. I usually don't get too many people saying, I want to spend more time learning, I want to have more of a purpose or anything like that. Kind of come back to the volunteering one. It's more some of these other health-related ones specifically. But eat healthier, spend less, save more, enjoy life, stress less, those types of things. So these are a list of them. And some of these are really good ones to focus in on. Some of these are a little too broad, and we'll get into that as we move forward. So another big thing when I'm working with someone is I always hear, I could do this if I just had the motivation. I could do this, it'd be so easy if I just had the motivation to do so. Well, then I quickly shared this with them. BJ Fogg, one of the guys I mentioned earlier, this is his Fogg behavior model. And he's done a ton of research on this, but essentially how this works is we have motivation over here, and up here is we need a ton of motivation. Down here we need little to none. And ability, we need a lot over here, we need little to none over here. And what he says is if we can find and work on things over here that takes very little motivation and very little skill, we'll be more successful. Okay? So for instance, I was working with someone last week, and they just want to get some more exercise. They want to be more physically active. Okay? And we talked about it. We talked about some of the things they like, things like that. And it came down to, well, can we get on the treadmill? I should do that. Okay? Let's take a look at that. How we can get that in there. And we came to the conclusion of just 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day. Is it meeting our general guidelines for how much exercise we're supposed to get in a week? No. However, what it is doing is it's allowing that person to start and to start working towards something. And what we found is after 5 minutes, they're like, well, I can do 5, I can do 10, I can do 15. And they ended up going a lot longer, but mentally, to get them onto that treadmill, it was, I just have to have 5 minutes, and then that's a success, I can cross that off for today. Okay? And so the motivation came after they got on. They started feeling good, they started moving, they started working up. But it had to start here first. Okay? If we were talking about, let's say this afternoon or this evening, we needed you to, I said, tonight, since you signed up for this, so you came here today, you're now all in my marathon class, and we're going to start running tonight. How much motivation would you need to get into that tonight? A lot, right? Okay, so we're talking ability level, that probably takes some ability, and motivation, we're probably way up here. This line may never get over there to reach for you, okay? So, once again, can we find things that are easy for you, that doesn't take a lot of motivation to get us started, and then we can always build after that, okay? Our culture, we're too black and white when it comes to all or nothing with exercise, all or nothing with nutrition. It's either I'm on my diet or I'm off my diet. It's I'm all in on exercise or I'm off exercise, okay? So can we work on this a little bit more and think of it from a smaller perspective? Okay. So on page 2, flip that page over. What I want you to do is up top here, just write motivation, motivation. And then go back to that first page, if you've already forgotten, take a look at that goal, and write a big number of how much it would take, 1 through 10, 10 being I need the most motivation ever, 1 being, I need little to no motivation to do this goal. Where would you stand? Where would you rate yourself? There's no right or wrong answer with this, so don't agonize over this too much. Just write nice and big, right down and through here. What number, 1 through 10, would you need to, what level of motivation would you need to accomplish that first goal? Okay. So the second part of BJ Fogg, what he talks about, is tiny habits versus baby steps. All right, tiny habits versus baby steps. So tiny habits are literally a smaller version. So instead of running the marathon, let's talk about a 5K. Okay? Instead of running a 5K, tiny habits makes us think of, let's just walk 2 blocks. If someone's not doing any type of physical activity right now, it's ridiculous to ask them to go out and run 3 miles. Okay, for many different reasons. But can they walk 2 blocks? Okay, that's tiny habits. Baby steps, on the other hand, is maybe someone can run 3 miles. They have that ability, they have that, they've done it in the past, but they just keep avoiding it for some reason. That motivation in their mind isn't there. Well, can we start working on all the steps that gets us there? Okay, do you have the correct shoes? Okay, do you have the right clothing? Right now versus summer would be a big difference in clothing, right? If we're going outside. Find a buddy. Do you have a friend that can help you? Schedule time to go, and then go for the run. So can we break it down into smaller, easy, digestible things that can get us, again, out the door? Okay. So we understand the difference between the two. One is simply making it smaller, okay? And then one is just breaking it down into a list almost, okay, of what you need to do. So, page 3. what we're going to do is I want you to take a look at your first goal. What I want you to do right here on top is either write tiny habit or baby steps, and I'll put this back up here in a second. Tiny habits or baby steps, and what I want you to do is rewrite your goal on the front utilizing either tiny habits or baby steps, one or the other, okay? And these things can kind of go back and forth. I get that, but just try to make it easy for yourself. Just use one or the other. So either use tiny habits or baby steps of your original goal, and then just rewrite that in that form. Even want to share their new goal? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
Using tiny habits will lose another 40 pounds.
Okay. So what's your tiny habit then?
I will eat healthier,
Okay.
utilize my provider, and exercise.
Okay. So you have just the different elements that'll help you. Okay.
My goal was to eat more vegetables in the day. I said 3 initially, so I said, well, I'm going to start with 1 because 3 is a lot. And hopefully if I can get 1 in, it'll motivate to say, okay, let's do 2 servings, 3 servings
You bet.
a day.
I had weight loss, and I get tiny habits, and just to eat a portion size. I'll base it off like that Weight Watcher, like my fist instead of like 10 fists.
Instead of American portion sizes, you're
Yes,
using the real
because
ones.
I don't want to have to put it in the refrigerator. That's the biggest thing. There's just a little bit,
Yeah.
so I eat the rest.
Yep.
Just a portion size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And they'll give half portions. You have to pay for this whole portion, but they'll give you.
Oh, wow, see.
I
I gotta get my money's worth.
I don't like throwing away.
Yeah, split is another one that you use there. So those are good ones. Thank you for sharing. Those are good ones that can help us out here. The next one, like I said, was Charles Duhigg, and his is called the Habit Loop. And all the habits that we have, and with wellness, if we could focus in on, we want to create a new habit, new lifestyle. A lot of times we see the yo-yoing of diets and different things. That's an easy example because we have someone, I'm going to go diet, I'm going to do this, but I know it's only going to be for 3 months until I lose the weight that I want to, and then I'm going to go back to my old lifestyle. Okay? We talk about wellness, we talk about health. Wellness is probably the best way of saying it. When we talk about wellness, we're looking at lasting lifestyle changes, not quick fixes, not I'm going to do this for a certain period of time. So kind of preface all the rest of the stuff with lasting lifestyle changes. Okay? So what we're trying to do is build habits, because if we don't have to think about it, it's just who we are, it's who we do. You're building that new culture within what you're doing. All right. So all those habits that are going on in our lives, and as we start talking about this, if you haven't ever seen this before, all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, there's one, as you go through this. But it's all cue, routine, and reward. Okay. Something happens that triggers you to do an action, which then gives you the reward. Okay. One, in Charles Duhigg's book, he talks about Pepsodent was the reason why toothpaste became a thing and why it's a billion-dollar business is because of Pepsodent and their advertising. They understood this principle, and what they did is the American public had really bad teeth and couldn't get that stuff going. So what they did is they used cue, routine, and reward. So the cue was dirty teeth. Don't have a bad feeling. We brush, all of a sudden it's minty clean at the end, and that whole Pepsodent with the ding, if you remember those old black and white commercials, that was the feeling of that they got. So they really mass marketed it and helped out every toothpaste company based off of that marketing campaign. Okay, so they understood cue, routine, reward. Target uses this. So Target uses this one. If you have, or any other store, have the credit card, the store charge cards, they know how often you purchase and what you purchase. and the other things that are similar to it. They build algorithms into their software, and so they know exactly how often. So it's funny, when you get close to running out of toilet paper, all of a sudden you get a coupon in the mail for toilet paper. They just know that we're such creatures of habit that this stuff happens. Okay, so we're going to see the coupon, we're going to go to Target, buy it, and then we're stocked up. Okay, so that's the whole concept behind the habit loop. And the reward is always going to be there. So, for instance, if we're working with nutrition, let's just say after we eat, we like to have something sweet, and that's what makes us feel better. Can we save our fruit to the end? Okay, so we're still going to finish eating. We change the routine, so instead of eating something junk food, we eat a piece of fruit, an apple, whatever, and then we still get that sweet fix. Okay, so you can manipulate the cue, you can manipulate the routine, but the reward is always going to be there. Okay, so whatever you're trying to break down, you can manipulate those first two. Okay, I work with smokers a lot who are driving to work, and they always have a cigarette. It's lit, and they have no idea how it was even lit before but that stoplight or whatever that they always stop at, that was what triggered them. So we just have them drive a different way into work. They don't see that visual cue. It's less easy to do that. Okay. So once again, it's just manipulating the cue or the routine. Okay. The second part of this, and this kind of goes back to BJ Fogg, but it's the correlation here is that trigger, the anchor, the cue, whatever phrasing you want to use. Okay. After I blank, I will blank. So after we can take a look at building a new habit off of an existing habit that's already there. Everything kind of takes care of itself. For example, one that I use with this is flossing. About 3 years ago, I went to the dentist. Kind of got scolded for not flossing, and so I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll start doing this. I was learning about this at the same time. So what I did is, after I brush my teeth, I will floss. Okay, so I use this method right here. Outside of being gone on out of town, which is a whole other topic with habits, but outside of being out of town, I haven't missed a day since. Okay, and going back all the way back to here, we already know how it just takes little to no ability to floss your teeth. Everyone generally knows how to floss them. Yes, sometimes spots harder to get than others, but for the most part, it takes little to no ability. So we're already over here. So how do I make it so easy for motivation? Well, can I floss one tooth? It takes longer to get the floss out than it does take to floss one tooth, right? I mean, it's so quick and easy. So once I got into it, I'd floss one. I can do more. This is ridiculous. I'm a big kid. I can do this, right? And so then you start doing more, and all of a sudden, once again, it became a habit, and now I don't miss a night. It's automatic. As soon as I finish my toothbrush away, I reach for the floss. It's automatic, and it's even hidden away. It's not like it's sitting out there reminding me. It's hidden away. It's just because of now who I am. This is exactly the pattern that I do. Yeah. Okay? And so all it is taking this little simple phrase and using this simple phrase. It's going, after I blank, I will blank. So one page forward. Let's go on page 4 and use this saying out, and I'll pull it back up here so you can take a look. But all I want you to do is think about your page 3 goal, your new goal that you wrote down there. Okay? And how can you anchor it with something that's already going on? Something that makes sense. If I was going to say, I'm going to floss, and it's always better after, okay, instead of before. So if I would have said, I'm going to floss before I go to bed, well, your bed's the trigger, so I'm going to be in bed, and then I'm going to be thinking about having to floss. So then, where's my motivation level to get out of bed, especially in winter when it's cold, to then go floss? It's not going to be there, okay? So make it follow something that makes sense, okay, for you. So after I blank, I will blank, that new behavior you want to do. So the last thing that we're going to take a look at here is deliberate practice. And this is James Clear. I believe his website's just jamesclear.com. But he asked 3 different questions when we're talking about deliberate practice. Habits, It's just that routine. We have to practice them. The first time, someone played piano, they're not mastered that. They have to practice it over a long period of time before it becomes natural, before it becomes just something that they do. And you watch someone and they get up there, they just play. I'm not musically talented at all, so I'm always a little envious of those people who can do that. And it just looks effortless. It looks like they could fall asleep and their fingers would still go, right? And so that's where we want to get with some of our habits. We don't spend the time to get there, okay? Number one is taking a look at the fundamentals. So if we use our 5K analogy, do you know everything that goes into that? If not, who can you ask? Who can you ask? Who do you know that can help you out with that? Okay? Talk to other people. I know Charles likes to run. He does 5Ks. Maybe I can go ask him what helped him get going. Okay? And now maybe I have a buddy that we can run with. Okay? So once again, trying to look at those things. Are you always working on the next step? So you know where you're at now, you're practicing that, and you're doing that. So for instance, Michelle, using your example, you said you wanted to eat one veggie. Okay? So you got your one veggie in. What part of the day works best for you to do that?
It'll be supper.
Probably supper? Okay. So you know that you're successful then. So what's the next step for you? Is it adding 2 for dinner? Or is it 1 for lunch? Is it a snack? What works best for you? Is it breakfast? That's probably one of the harder ones, right? So maybe that's not the good one to look at. But what is your next step, and how can you set yourself up for success, and how do you know when to take that next step? All right? And then what am I missing? Once again, that goes back to asking others, reaching out for help, doing research on your own. Where else are you missing? So with deliberate practice, it's all about doing that repetitively over and over, making sure you have all that information that can help you do that. All right, so behavior change happens in a couple different ways, either by epiphany, which usually it doesn't happen too often. Every now and then I'll come across someone who's telling me their smoking cessation story that they quit cold turkey just one day, just like that, and never picked it up again. Very rare, but it does happen sometimes where all of a sudden we just get up and we just start being physically active and we never look back, right? That does happen, but not very often. You can change your environment, okay? Instead of living in Iowa in the winter where you hate the cold and hate to be outside, we go south. We can change the environment. That not necessarily always works. Otherwise, we can take baby steps and work on small changes in our lives over and over that make success, okay? When I work with a lot of people, they come in, they tell me it took them forever to get here. It's not going to fall away right away as well. It's going to take a while to go back. So be patient with yourself, be positive with yourself, and realize that it does take a lot of little things added up over time that can get you where you want to go. Okay, so those were the topics we talked about today. Any questions on any of those? Just really quick, I went through that, so I just want to make sure that you don't have any questions. So if you do have specific ones, feel free to reach out to me. Today is my last day in community relations, so Monday I'll be starting up with Iris, but that doesn't mean you still can't reach out and ask those questions. It's this passion of mine. I love behavior change, and so I'm more than willing to help out.
So who will we contact if you with Iris now when we still for our Simply Round?
Yeah. Heidi is the interim person, and then hopefully we'll have someone hired as soon as possible.
Okay.